It's time for Trench Talk, where Joe Rogan meets underground metal and heavy music. I'm your host, Flight of Icarus from metaltrenches.com. As always, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel, like, comment, share. Check down in the description. You can find links to all of our social media accounts, our email list, and also our Patreon and Subscribestar. But let's get into the episode. All right, so I wanted to start with your last album. You covered DUNE, and now you're talking about Logan's Run. And I want to just start there and say, okay, why? Well, actually, before we even get into why Logan's Run, for our younger listeners out there who probably don't even know what that is, could you kind of give sort of a basic synopsis?
Yeah, so Logan's Run basically is about a future city, year 2072.
Something like that, yeah.
And it's about how the government decides, it's basically a youth versus government revolt. So the government decides to impose sanctions on breeding, and how they are supposed to live and who they're supposed to worship, and how long they get to live as well. So there's a bit of an
so it's like youth versus government, but it's also the fight to escape government rules and totalitarian living and flee to a place where you can live how you want and live as long as you'd like.
Yeah. And people are executed at the age of 30. Is that correct?
It depends on who you ask. The movie, it's 21, I believe, and then the book, it's 30.
The book is 21. The movie is 30.
My bad. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Are you more fans of the book or the movie?
I think as a group, we're more fans of the book. It goes a little bit more in detail, but obviously we love old sci-fi. We love campy, corny kind of shit. So the movie is great too.
And we definitely blended the two on this album.
Awesome. I just realized I skipped your intro too. Could you both sort of introduce yourselves and your band?
Yeah, so we're Necropanther from Denver, Colorado. My name is Paul Anup, and I'm the singer, rhythm guitarist.
I'm Marcus Korich. I'm the bassist.
And how would you describe the sound of your band? Is there a particular genre that you like to place it in?
What I like to say is blackened melodic death thrash.
I think that's perfect. That's perfect, because I really struggle with, okay, is it Blackened Thrash? Because there's definitely a lot of Skeletonwitch there, but also there's a lot of melodic death metal in the guitars too. So I think you nailed it by just sort of mixing those together.
Yeah. So that I've been throwing that around for the last year or two, and I think blackened melodic death thrash is probably the best way you could describe our sound.
I mean, we mess around with so much shit that, like, it's really difficult to really nail down, a handful of things or, like, singular items to classify it as.
All right, so I want to come back to that, but I want to also stick to just the concept first of all. So moving to why Logan's Run?
So we like to stick to 70s, 80s, sci-fi, horror, dystopian future, things like that. So in all honesty, as a band, we're very democratic. So we come up with a few ideas of what we really want to write about, and then we vote on what we think would be the best. And we voted for Logan's Run this last album, and that's what we're going for.
Logan's Run is fairly rich in material. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of themes, ideas, concepts that we can invite the listener to explore and maybe draw connections to, present day life, the world as it is, and, not have a singular focus in our lyrical content.
In the press release, there was a quote about how this content's sort of a deliberate challenge to youth culture. Could you sort of elaborate on that?
So with the idea of the book, being that, the young are persecuted by the government, that it's up to the young to defy the norms. It's basically along the lines of a dare. It's to look at what the story offers and, say, okay, this is what a youth uprising looks like in Logan's Run, Balls in Your Court.
Okay. So I pick up that you're choosing your answers very carefully because we're in sort of political territory here. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'd say so.
It's a minefield right now, so fair enough.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, then if we can, I'm more interested just talking about sci-fi and nerdy stuff. I've been putting my review together already for the album, which I love, by the way, and it's like a match made in heaven for me because you've got two of my favorite sort of subgenres blending, and then you're mixing in all these just nerdy sci-fi elements that I grew up around a lot. My dad introduced me to the Foundation series a long time ago, and I think that really stoked those flames big time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what got you all sort of on the path to just focusing on these sci-fi concepts to begin with?
Well, so this is Paul speaking, vocalist and guitarist, rhythm guitarist. So I kind of started Necropanther myself. I started with a 3-song demo, basically. I moved out to Denver and put out an ad. I believe it was on Craigslist.
Yeah.
And the guitarist, Joe Johnson, our lead guitarist, responded, and we kind of started from there. And really the way I went for the sci-fi theme was I just love 80s sci-fi. I love, concepts of a dystopian future and of what the future might be like. And I thought that taking that as a lyrical version for like death metal, thrash metal would be kind of a new take, a different take, rather than just singing about death and destruction and dying people. I thought maybe we could take it in a different direction, move a little bit towards a conceptual album, and delve a little bit deeper into theories of humankind rather than just death and destruction.
And I think that does help you stand out, because I've had a lot of conversations on here with bands about what does help them stand out, because there's so many bands now. Like, it's never been easier to just sort of get music and to put your music out there. So to have some sort of, I was going back and forth with, I can't remember which musician, but we were talking about like a gimmick versus like a concept. So it's definitely not, it doesn't feel like a gimmick. It feels like this idea that sort of adds an extra layer to your music. But do you remember, like, going back to just being younger, was there a particular sci-fi novel or movie that got either of you into sci-fi to begin with?
I mean, of course, Terminator. That's what the first album is about. My father actually took me to see Terminator 2 in the theaters when I was super young. I called him when I got home from school one day, and I was like, Dad, I want to go see Terminator 2. You got to take me. And he was like, let's go see it. And so, like, I was just super into it, like, as a young kid, like anything sci-fi, anything horror, I was super drawn to, like Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, like, all that old, like, action, fucking dystopian.
Yeah, like Twilight Zone.
Predator, fucking Mad Max.
Yeah,
Brazil.
all that stuff. Like, I was just super into as a kid, and my parents were just like, okay, here you go, check it out. So that's I don't know. I've just always been interested in that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of stylistic stuff, I think, with dystopian and sci-fi and fantasy, horror, action. That kind of that era and that style. There's just a quality to it in a lot of films and a lot of books that really drew me in, and I couldn't point to a singular one, but just that genre, just took hold early.
I think also a lot of those ideas that had happened in those early sci-fi novels, sci-fi movies are actually coming to realization now.
Yeah.
Like scientists making robots now, and things are getting very, very, very interesting with computers and robots now. So
yeah, it is interesting. One of my favorite, I kind of went on a sort of 80s, 90s sci-fi kick, action movie stuff. Cause I'm just so kind of like fed up and disillusioned with sort of movies right now. Like there's still stuff I enjoy, and I'll go out and enjoy like a Marvel movie and stuff. I really enjoyed Endgame and all that, but there's just some charm about like that era, especially when it comes to like sci-fi action movies, that just is so fun. So I went back and I actually went out and like bought used copies of Blu-rays of like most of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and stuff, and it's amazing how well they hold up. But my favorite rewatch recently was Demolition Man, because that movie is more relevant today than even when it was made. I think, with all the like the social censorship stuff, and just it just cracked me up watching it, because I'm like, was this made like this year?
Yeah, so that's a little bit of what we like. What we like about that is because it kind of does play into today's culture and today's like technology, So
yeah, it's a perennially relevant sort of storyline. It holds up really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's
and like I said,
go ahead. I talk too much.
It's a lot more fun than just talking about killing people and abortions and
same old trope,
murder, whatnot.
Yeah, it gets old. There's a place for that, but yeah, it's been done to death. But I think this is also a reason why my favorite movie of the last couple of years, maybe even the last decade, was the new Blade Runner, because it was just like the closest I've seen a movie come to sort of that old feel that movies like Terminator and Aliens and all that stuff used to sort of conjure in my just in my brain, like just being taken away to this very interesting place with all these high concepts and amazing visuals and amazing soundtrack. And so I'd love to see a lot more of that.
Yeah, we're definitely on board. And actually Aliens and Blade Runner were, potential.
There were runners in this?
Yes, absolutely. And is that DUNE remake still on? Like, is that still happening?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but yeah, we heard something about a DUNE, a new TV series or movie or something happening.
So we were like all pumped on here, and that was going to be remade.
I believe it's a movie, and I believe it is still on. But we all know the history of how that goes, so we'll wait and see.
So yeah, as Marcus said, Aliens and Blade Runner were definitely in the running for the concept of the album. So who knows? You might see that for the next one or the one after that.
That would be sick. I would love that. I'm a huge Alien and like Predator fan. I had a weird friend in like grade school that got me into that stuff really young. He had like all the comics and action figures, and I couldn't watch rated R movies, so we'd go to his house and stay up and watch that stuff there. And I think that was a big starting point for me. I love like creature design stuff too, and so those definitely top the list in terms of just really cool prosthetics and costumes and just again good movies that hold up. Are there other movies or books that you like really have on your bucket list, so to speak, that you want to delve into?
So I really enjoy Running Man, the movie and the novel by Richard Bachman, who is also Stephen King's
his alter ego.
Yes, his alter writer. So I really like Running Man, but this last album was a lot about the runners. So I don't think we're going to do that for the next one. It'd be a little bit too much. Too similar. Yeah, I mean, nothing's out of the question, but I think also Stargate was kind of on the list.
I was really pumped on the notion of doing The Thing, but we didn't.
The Thing.
That's another one of my favorites. Talk about creature design. Oh my god.
Yeah.
They Live.
Dude, yeah.
Man, there's so many good ones.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are all kind of in our top 10, you know? So you never know. Some of those might pop out in the next album too.
Like, I think we have a lot of options. I'm not sure if there's anything kind of like bucket list material where it's like a do or die kind of, you know, dream idea. I think it's just kind of how it strikes us and how the band feels about the idea.
Yeah. It's got to be hard to choose. I don't know if I could, but I would love to hear a band tackle the Foundation series, because I feel like that is just such an underrated, to me it's like the best sci-fi series ever written, and it's not commonly talked about. I mean, everybody talks about Asimov's other stories, like I, Robot has been remade so many times in so many different forms, but I almost never hear Foundation come up except in like really niche kind of corners of the internet.
I mean, don't threaten us with a good time. Like, the more obscure, the better material. Like, that's our jam.
Yeah. Do you see yourselves sticking to this sci-fi format, or do you think things will evolve over time into other areas? What are your thoughts on that?
So I think we will stick with this format. I think one of our long-term goals is to write a sci-fi a story ourselves, like write our own concept story for the album. Yes.
And so yeah, we'll keep it the format, at least on the full lengths. We're still doing the EPs that are singularly written by a band member, and those will tend to stray from the format somewhat. So yes and no, we're going to stick with it.
Okay. All right, so let's shift gears to kind of the musical side of things. And I am, so melodic death metal, Blackened Thrash, what are your like primary influences as you've been working on these albums?
Life. Seriously, man. Like, I don't listen to a certain genre of music or a certain band and say, yeah, I'd like to really write a song like that. I think it comes from my own life experiences. Like, I'll go to a show, I'll experience the live show, and then I'll come home and I'll be inspired by what I saw.
Or like diving.
Or like scuba diving, or like being in traffic. You know, anything out of just life. I think that's what really inspires our music.
We have a very diverse set of influences in the band, ranging anywhere from glam rock to like old crossover hardcore to thrash metal to black metal, straight death metal. I mean, melodic metal. Like, we have a lot of people interested in a lot of different music, and I think that we're able to kind of touch on a little bit of everything and kind of paint with a lot of different colors in composing our music and creating our albums.
I did have one specific question about some of the guitars on here. Really struck a chord for me in terms of the really sort of epic harmonies that are going on. And I could not stop thinking about Dethklok. And I don't know if y'all are Metalocalypse fans, but they just have a very specific way of writing the guitars.
Actually, I don't know when it was, but it was either when we released the first album, our self-titled, or it was Eyes of Blue Light. I had a bunch of people coming up to me and saying that it reminded them of Dethklok, which, yes, we are fans of Metalocalypse and of Adult Swim cartoons.
Yeah.
But you know, Dethklok, that's an amazing band. Even if it's just a cartoon band, it's an amazing band. They write great music.
Doing it by himself.
Yeah. And it's just Brendan Small.
Yeah, he's amazing. Like, I can't believe that guy, between the artistry and all the voice work and then crafting entire albums. I own all of those albums and watched every episode of the show. And not only that, but I caught them on tour with Converge and Mastodon. And they were the best band there. I was like, this is insane. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I kind of went there sort of on a lark. Like, I enjoyed the music, but I thought it was going to be kind of like campy, but they were dead serious and it was really good. And they've got this backdrop with all the cartoons playing. They like had music videos made for each song, and it was an amazing show. I will never forget that. That was a long time ago, though.
That Gene Hoglan playing on drums for that show?
Yeah, I believe so.
Fuck yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome.
It was incredible. Yeah.
We're definitely fans of Dethklok, and I'm sure there are similarities with, like, you know, their guitar styles, especially with like the epicness, the you know, really rich chords, the high, you know, big vibrato leads.
Harmonies.
But that stuff for us all just like, that's all Joe's sound. That's all him, and there's really no influence that we draw from up to Dethklok there.
Well, they're great. I mean, I really picture Toki and Squizgar on mountaintops battling each other. But go ahead, I interrupted you again.
No, it's okay. I think it just goes to show our Gothenburg influences,
Definitely.
our Scandinavian influences.
Oh yeah.
So I think just those parts that may feel similar to them, it just I think that's just our Scandinavian, you know, melodic death metal take.
Awesome. Well, it came out great, and I was curious too, like, was there anything different about your approach this time around versus Eyes of Blue Light?
Definitely, yeah.
So yes, definitely. The Eyes of Blue Light was written mostly by the drummer and me, Paul, the rhythm guitarist and vocalist. There was a couple songs that our lead guitarist wrote, but for this album we have Marcus Korich on the bass, and he just fucking he elevated our band to a next level in the bass. Also in the songwriting area too. I think you have 3 or 4 songs on this album.
4 songs. I think this album was much more collaborative. Everyone, you know, wrote songs. Everyone wrote lyrics. And whereas before it might have been more Joe and Paul driven, this one was much more egalitarian in its writing style. I think procedurally we did this one a lot different from Eyes of Blue Light, whereas that one was, you know, very planned out, very deliberate. Very organized. This one was a little
more off the cuff,
a little more chaotic in that sense as well. But it was one of those things where it's like we set out the plan and the goal, and it's everyone just fucking buckled down and we got it done.
I think really the main difference between Eyes of Blue Light and this album was the change of the bassist. So right before Eyes of Blue Light, we lost our original bassist. And Marcus came in within a month of us having to mix and master, and just nailed all of the songs.
Wow.
Just fucking ruled. And but he didn't have any artistic input on the songs. So this album, we got his artistic input as well as more of the band as a whole collaborating together. So I think this album is a better representation of the band as a whole collaborating.
It's interesting to hear you say that it was more kind of chaotic and off the cuff this time around, because I feel like this album feels actually more consistent than Eyes of Blue Light. That was just my personal thought on it, but I don't know. What do you all think about that? Yeah.
No, that's great. So yeah, Eyes of Blue Light.
That's what we're going for. It's like, we want to sound like a single unit. This one was just, you know, behind the scenes. It was not the.
Yeah, so Eyes of Blue Light, we had the songs demoed and ready, and we knew exactly what we were going to do and exactly how we had planned. This album, we had a lot of personal obligations to kind of balance between recording and real life, you know what I'm saying? So
I mean, like, Hogan got married in this album. Right?
Yeah, so yeah, we had a marriage, we had
like deaths of friends.
So there was a lot of crazy things that happened during this album, and it was like 2 months before we were going to mix and master, we still had songs to track, vocals to track. We like to to be honest, we were working on lyrics, a month ago. So we were, well, maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So a month and a half, 2 months ago, we were still working on lyrics for this album. So we were like, we had a deadline and we knew we had to get it, and we
fucking did.
We did it, and I feel like we did it to the best of our ability. And if you feel like that it's even better organized than Eyes of Blue Light, then that just gives me hope for the future.
And I would say that part of that take that's interesting to me is that while procedurally this album was a little more chaotic, I think that going through all that stuff together kind of made us, it forced us to like congeal more, and it forced us more close as a band. So I think at the end of this album we are more unified as people, and so maybe that's coming through a little bit more in the album.
Yeah, we definitely collaborated more on lyrics and music structure. We collaborated on everything basically, except for maybe 2 songs. I think there are 2 songs that are on this new album that are just straight like what we wrote, and that's it. But yes, very collaborative.
Well, it came out great. I honestly think you all outdid yourselves, because I really enjoyed Eyes of Blue Light a lot. It caught my attention, but it also strikes me as an album that has some very, very high points and then other points that I enjoy, but it's just like not as good as the high points. This album, like, it's like straight through, really solid the whole way. And yeah, I'm just really impressed with it. I've been jamming it pretty much nonstop since I got it a couple days ago. And yeah, do you all have any favorite moments on the album so far?
Well, first of all, thank you. That's very flattering to hear. Thank you very much for that.
Yes, thank you.
Always.
I think honestly, one of my high points on the album is track number 6, Hell. And I really enjoyed writing the lyrics for it, and I enjoyed doing the vocals for it because it's really fast, a lot of different parts, a lot of like low death metal vocals and really fast high staccato black metal vocals. So I really enjoyed doing that.
I mean, I think to me there are a lot of high points on this album. Sanctuary, which was a melding of a Joe and a Paul song that just came out beautifully, is one of them. I think Hoken's writing on this one is outstanding. I think his drum performances are fucking ridiculous. Like he did so well on this album. But musically, I mean, there's a lot of high points, but to me the ultimate high point was just getting to hang out with my friends and write music that I love and have a great goddamn time doing it. And, now I get to do this, and it's just all fucking fun.
Hell yeah.
Yes, I think that's the most important part about our band, is that we like to have fun. And as long as everyone's having fun and having a good time, then the band's having a good time.
Well, and speaking of just having a good time in the scene, and I'm always curious to hear people's thoughts on sort of their own local scene, especially when it comes to certain areas, Colorado being one of them. I've spoken with a few Colorado bands, particularly in the Denver area, and there's a lot going on there. So, thoughts on just what it's like over there, what you love about it, maybe what you don't love about it, and some favorite bands going on around you.
I mean, dude, right now there is not a lot to dislike. Denver or Colorado in general is fucking sick right now for metal. I first played in a band here back in 2004, and at that time it was like you had to wait to go see shows, and there was a handful of acts around town that you could really enjoy. And now it's just fucking any weekend you can go out and see a great metal show.
Yeah, I agree. I think when we first started about 5 years ago was when the metal scene just started like really growing in Denver. And every show that we play in Denver has at least 20 or 30 people there. Even if it's not promoted, it's a small show, it's a tiny place, no one knows, hole in the wall. There's people there. And it's a really, really good scene. People enjoy going out to shows. People, it's Denver. People love drinking beer. It's the brewery, one of the brewery capitals of the United States. So People are super supportive. You know, they come out, they buy our merch, and it's awesome. There's not really a bad thing that I can say about it.
No, it's sick. Like, there's not a lot of like, you know, band drama and all that shit out here. Like,
nope.
Everyone hangs out, gets along. Everyone understands that we're all on the same team. You know, just metalheads playing metal and trying to enjoy each other's music, and it's fucking awesome.
And also, besides just like local bands, I feel like national metal tours. National metal bands come through at least every 2 weeks. So there's literally something to see in Denver or around Denver every week, every 2 weeks in the metal scene.
And I think to the second part of your question, if we're going to like plug bands, I mean, you got to point to like Chemist, you got to point to Cephalic Edge, you got to point to fucking Havoc, Allegion, shit, man, like Glacial Tomb, A Feather and Bone, Primitive Man, Blood Incantation. Like we've got so many good fucking bands here. It's overwhelming.
Are you all familiar with Noctambulist?
No.
You should check them out. I interviewed them a while back, but they were just cool dudes. Are you familiar with like Portal or Alterage?
I've heard of Portal, but I'm not familiar with the other ones.
Well, they just play this really also Ulcerate.
Yes, I've listened to Ulcerate. Okay. They're French, right?
They're from New Zealand, I think.
Oh, New Zealand. Okay, I thought they were from France. I don't know why.
Yeah. But yeah, if you've heard Ulcerate, these guys play a pretty similar style to that. Just very chaotic, dense, atmospheric, technical death metal. And they're out of Denver, if I recall, because I remember them talking about like Ethan McCarthy and everything, and just the support they're getting out there. So definitely check them out. I try to plug them when I can, because they're definitely, they just got started. I think they dropped their debut last year, and it's really solid. Definitely check them out.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else that comes to mind, maybe not just in Denver, but like your favorite underground musician that you feel like deserves a lot more attention than they're getting right now?
Honestly, I've been too busy to check out new music in the last year. So I'm kind of a little bit behind on the new music and the underground music for this last year or two. I've just been so busy with work and writing this new album. I
think we're writing our post-album hangover a little bit right now. So we're
fair enough. Yeah,
still fucking recovering from that whole process.
What do you?
And
do?
also,
go ahead.
To kind of go with what you said before, we don't necessarily listen to music to get inspiration.
Right.
You know, we take our inspiration from life and our own experiences. So.
And dystopian futures. So yeah, like getting and learning new music is always awesome, but I think our main focus is writing our own music. And we're doing our own thing.
Yeah. Is there anything you all do to sort of decompress after you go through the writing process? Because I have heard that from other bands where, especially like, I don't want to touch any other bands like in the same genre as me after I've written an album, because I've just been like so deeply involved with it for so long. I'm kind of sick of it.
No, not at all. Actually, I actually just wrote a new song for the next album last week. And I've written a couple songs for an EP that'll probably be coming out before the next full length. So that's not the thing for me. I love writing music. I will continue to write music until I die. So
yeah, that's not really our style. We're kind of gluttons for punishment in that sense, that we want to hammer out as much music that we can while we want to stay busy. We want to stay artistically relevant and make the best metal that we can. So we're just kind of nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, we just love writing music. I mean, I personally, I could write a song every week and be happy with life. So
nice.
I mean, it's almost like nonstop for the past 2 years, just writing, recording, playing something. Like,
I think it was 2 weekends ago we got together for band practice, and we actually listened to 3 or 4 songs to the next album or in our future. So like,
we're already on
to the future.
Are there any plans to tour with this material at all?
So we all have careers and we all have jobs. that kind of keep us in Denver or around that area. But we would like to get on, short tours, maybe like a week or two here and there, get on some festivals. But we don't have any specific plans as of right now.
We've done, the little like excursions out to like Wichita, do little like hits around a certain area, but touring, we kind of keep that to a minimum for the sake of our, professions.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Life kicks you in the ass. And I mean, speaking of like all the stuff you were describing with sort of trials and tribulations while writing this album, I've just heard so many people say that particularly this last year has just been unusually difficult for pretty much everyone I know, myself included. So I don't know what's in the water or whatever, but kudos to you for fighting through it and still coming out on top with this record.
Thank you.
Well, back at you, man. Kudos on you for getting through the year.
Yeah, man. It's been a rough one, but this is one of my favorite things to do to just unwind, is just chat with interesting people all around the country or sometimes the world and hear about crazy stuff and sci-fi and whatever.
Where are you at?
I'm in Portland, Oregon now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a buddy that's moving up to Seattle soon. So
cool. Yeah, Seattle and Portland both have really cool scenes that intermingle a lot, since it's not too much of a drive. It's like 3 hours or so.
Nice.
Yeah, and there's tons of music out here, kind of like what you're describing with Colorado, and a pretty good mixture of a lot of different stuff. So it's been a nice upgrade, because we lived in Memphis for 5 years, and I really enjoyed Memphis, but there's just not as much music coming through there. I feel like more so now than back then. And then we lived in Chicago before that, which obviously also has a really good scene, but I was kind of busy with college and everything and didn't have a lot of time to go to shows.
Did you get to go to the Rocket Bowl when you were out in Chicago?
No, I don't believe
Rockin'
so. Rockin' Bowl. No. Is that a venue?
Yeah, I heard it was like an old school venue. It was like in skating rink. They turned into like a punk/metal venue.
No. I went to Reggie's a lot, which is a popular venue. I saw Dillinger Escape Plan there with the number 12 Looks Like You, and that was awesome.
I've got a couple buddies. I was born in Wichita, Kansas, moved out here about 6 years ago, but I've got a couple buddies that actually have worked there in the past, which is kind of cool. Yeah, Reggie's. Yeah, it's like bartenders, bouncers. So yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, it's a cool place and a cool town. And we definitely miss, of course, the pizza. And I will still argue that Chicago has the best burger in the entire country, which is at Kuma's Corner. So if you ever find yourself in Chicago and you love burgers, definitely go there. And it's like a metal bar too. So they play nothing but like intense heavy metal music. All the burgers are named after different metal bands, and you get like a half-pound patty on a big pretzel bun, and it's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. I did want to go back, since you mentioned that you were Adult Swim fans. What's your favorite Adult Swim cartoon? Because that was definitely a big part of my college experience and late high school too.
Oh man, that's difficult.
Squidbillies is awesome.
Squidbillies,
awesome.
Man.
Metalocalypse,
Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Yeah.
Aqua Teen, man, is one of my favorites, definitely.
Started it all.
Was the Boondocks on Adult Swim for a while?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, dude.
That may come back too. I heard they may be doing a comeback run, and I think it's the perfect time for that too. So I would love that.
Yeah. Was Harvey Birdman, was that Adult
Swim?
Swim?
Yeah, Harvey Birdman School. Yeah, Harvey Birdman.
C-Lab.
C-Lab, love C-Lab.
I think the first ones I saw, my I didn't have cable, and so I would go to my friend's house, and we would sit in his basement, and he just put on Adult Swim, and I was like, what is this? And I think we watched a run of Venture Bros, C-Lab, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and Harvey Birdman, I think. And I was just immediately hooked. I was like, I don't know what this is, but this is amazing.
So here's a quick funny story. Here's a quick funny story. I lived in the Caribbean for about 3.5 years. I lived on Grand Cayman. I'm a scuba diving instructor and a boat captain.
Damn.
And while I was living there, there was no streaming services. This was like 2007 to 2011.
Yep.
So no streaming services, no Netflix, no anything like that. So what you did was you went down to the corner store and bought the bootleg DVDs from the corner store. And I literally bought bootleg DVDs of Aqua Teen, C-Lab, Harvey Birdman, and yeah, it was great.
Good times. I have so many fond memories of just having a late night on like a Friday on campus and falling asleep to watching just whatever was on Adult Swim at the time, whatever craziness. I'm still particularly fond of the Brood Witch episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force, if you remember that one. That's one of my all-time favorites. It cannot be disassembled.
It's like a quote wormhole. Yes, I definitely understand what you're talking about. And appreciate that episode very much.
So good. Any other random things that play into your music that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, so one of the cool things to point out with this album is that the fucking thing, beginning to end, is like a giant Easter egg hunt. We really put a lot of different references to bands, to like just things that we enjoy that are in this album. It's preposterous, I think, to a certain extent, how much we packed in there.
Yeah, there's almost one reference to a different either classic metal or classic rock band or some kind of stupid pop culture reference in almost every song.
Excellent. I love stuff like that. It's a little scavenger hunt. So I'm going to have to comb through the lyrics now and check that out.
Yeah, I think if you're diligent, there's a lot of interesting stuff to find on this.
All right, cool. Well, it feels like we're kind of winding down here. Any final thoughts or things you want listeners to know about the band, the album, other things that are coming up in the pipe, where to find you?
Yeah. I mean, I think most importantly is we're going to probably put out a single written by our drummer next. And then the next thing that will come out after that is an EP written by me.
Yep.
And then we obviously have songs in the work right now for the full length. So I think the most important thing is we're still working and we're going to continue to deliver amazing music. Yeah. We're just going to continue to put it out because that's what we love. We love writing music. We like putting it out. So I mean, it's not going to be 2 years before you hear from Necropanther again. It's going to be 6 months at the most.
Yeah, like we're workhorses. We don't stop. So that's, news on our end. Anything to leave with, I guess it would just be that, we're stoked to be on Metal Trenches. Thank you for having us. This is a lot of fun, and fun is the name of the game for us. And we're just going to keep rolling with that.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of it. And where's the best place for people to follow you to get like the most up-to-date things? I know bands have sort of different preferences in terms of which social media they use.
We got all the bases covered, man. But I would say Instagram and Twitter, Facebook, necropanther.com. Those are our hotspots.
Cool. And I will have a link to the Bandcamp down in the description for people to pre-order and check out the songs as they're released. And yeah, thanks again for doing this. And speaking of life right now, I'm recording at home and I don't want the kids to distract me, so I've literally hooked everything up with an extension cord into the closet. So that is my high-tech setup right now, but it's nice and quiet in here, so we'll have great sound.
So, well, to second that closet motion, that's actually where I recorded all of my vocals for this album. Was in the closet. Yep. So there you go. It's
a great isolation booth. I mean, you've got all the clothes hanging up everywhere, and it's eating up all that echo. So yeah, why not?
Yep.
We feel you there in the closet, buddy.
Excellent. Yep. Well, live from the closet. Thank you all for listening, and I appreciate you all being on here. But we'll call it for now, and Are you all okay with me? I usually splice in some like 10-second clips from songs kind of throughout the interview. Is that cool?
Oh, yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
All right. Excellent. Well, you all enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will be in touch.
Cool. Thanks, man. Enjoy.
Yep.
Do the same, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Later. And that'll do it for this episode of Trench Talk. Thank you as always for listening. Once more, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel, like, comment, all that good stuff. Share it with others. Check the description. In addition to a link to the Bandcamp for Necropanther, you can find links to all of our social media, our email list, and of course our Patreon and Subscribe Star. If you feel like we're of such added value that you want to contribute even $1 a month, it makes a huge difference in covering my overhead costs and everything. But just thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for continuing to come back. As always, Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.